we go, it's working now. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Right, let the guys in now then. So we've got Susan Jones and Elaine Wilkes coming in.
Perfect. Who's on, Susan? Anyone else?
And Elaine.
Okay. Elaine Wilkes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think a lot of people are watching on the catch up, aren't they?
Yeah, it's nice to have a little audience though.
Yeah, better with a bit of an audience.
I feel like I'm actually talking to someone now. There we are. I think they've both connected to the audio. Can you hear us all right, girls?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, lovely. So I'm just going to pop, now I know you can hear us, I'm just going to pop you on mute now. So yeah, any questions, chuck them in the chat and we'll pick them up at the end, okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's get this show on the road then. So yeah, so tonight's training, guys, we're looking at the aerobic energy system, which, you know, as we go through this, I hope one of the key things you take away is that in terms of life, it's one of the most beneficial things we can sort of work on and look to improve. So yeah, looking at the objectives of the training tonight. So yeah, we're going to provide you with an introduction to conditioning. We're going to explain how ATP is utilized by the body for energy. We're then going to get more specific, describe the aerobic system and its functions, explain why it's important for everyone to develop their aerobic fitness. Then we're going to touch on the physiology side of things and look at the adaptations that occur as a result of, you know, training this system. And then we're going to provide you with a bit of an overview of various aerobic conditioning protocols which you can use to benefit your aerobic fitness. Because, you know, what sort of stereotypical things do you think of, Sam, when people talk about cardio?
Well, I think when I was learning, I've been doing this a long time now, cardio was frowned upon. I think in the 60s, 70s and 80s, cardio was the big thing. And then sort of the 1990s and the 2000s up until around probably the last 2 or 3 years, aerobic training has been something that has been disregarded in the industry a little bit. It's been all about, you know, high intensity interval training and how that's much better for you. Aerobic training is bad for you in some ways because you lose muscle mass and it lowers your metabolism. So, you know, a lot of the early courses I did were quite anti aerobic work, which just goes to show really that things do tend to come around in trends, right? You know, we're seeing things back now, like the ketogenic diet is back now. You know, I can remember that in, you know, the late part of the 1990s, my mother being on like a ketogenic diet. You know, and I was like 8 or 9 years old and she wasn't allowed any bread, any pasta, any rice, but she was eating loads of bacon, you know, and cooking it in butter and stuff like that. So, yeah, things do come around in trends, but I think the benefit now is research. Science has moved on a lot. So, you know, we can actually now justify whether things are worth doing or worth not doing, you know. So, yeah. What about yourself? What do you think of, Zoe?
I just think of those stereotypical things you see in the gym where, like, you know, people are walking for hours on end on a treadmill and it's long, it's slow, like boring. Those sort of stereotypes sort of come into my head. But like said in the, you know, we're going to show you that it doesn't necessarily have to be boring. There's various methods and things you can use to create, you know, to improve your aerobic fitness. So yeah. Like
another thing I think of as well is injuries. Because when you think of cardio, I think people just automatically think of running. You know, and they think, oh, you do cardio, or what, you know, where do you run? How far do you go? It's automatically. I think a lot of people just think of running as cardio, and then obviously you get a lot of injuries associated with that then as well. Overuse injuries like shin splints, knee pain, hip pain, things like that. So yeah, it's what do the girls think of out of interest when they think of cardio? You know, I reckon they probably think heart attack today, because I think people think like
mute, and then let us
know.
Like,
in the gym as well, people think of cardio as boot camp, you know, and that's probably not the cardio we want people to do in a way. It's quite a brutal workout. And it's definitely not aerobic for a lot of people unless they are very fit. So, yeah, I think probably the members, when they think of cardio, they think of boot camp or strongman training. And that's not aerobic conditioning. So, yeah, I think tonight's training is going to be really good for lots of people if they do watch this and catch up.
Yeah, because often it's always Dave as well. Dave, whenever he sees me doing my well, I'll talk about aerobic output work later in the session, but whenever I'm doing my aerobic output work, which basically means I'm doing it is that stereotypical, I'm doing it for a long time. It's very low intensity. So if you're looking at the my zone, I'm only in the blue or the green. And Dave will always come over to me saying, come on, Zoe, get in the yellow. And I'm like, no, Dave, I'm not training to work at 80% of my maximum heart rate. I'm training for a specific reason. Oh, just do a sprint for me. No, Dave, I'm not going to do a sprint. That's not what I'm trying to achieve here. So, it's funny, like different people's perceptions of what conditioning is. And there is a lot of, conditioning is a very broad thing. It's not just, that's why, like I say, we're going to touch specifically on aerobic conditioning tonight and look at the various things you can do, because it is not just that long durations, low intensity, steady state. There's a bit more to it as well. Okay, so moving on. So we're going to briefly touch on conditioning and what the sort of, the concept of conditioning is. So it's all about energy production and expenditure. So, when it comes to conditioning, we need to have a bit of an understanding of how the body produces and expends energy. So I'm going to touch on a few things, not in a massive amount of detail, just a little brief overview. And yeah, one of the big things is it takes a lot of energy for us to survive. And yeah, without a constant supply of energy, life is not possible. So our body needs to be producing and using energy all the time. And we talked earlier about conditioning, that loads of people have different understandings of it. And one of the things I think, since learning more about it, is conditioning and like that sort of training needs a little bit more respect, really. Often it's just a second thought. Really, we should be thinking of it in the same way as we do resistance training. So, we should be using different methods to create different adaptations depending on what our goal is. And, it should be periodized, it should be thought out a little bit more. And it's more than just creating a calorie deficit. Don't get me wrong, it can be used as a method to create a calorie deficit if that's what you're looking to achieve, but there's more to it than that. And that's one of the key things I want you guys to take away today. So when it comes to the body conditioning, it all comes down to energy. So ATP is the chemical currency of the body. Every cell in our body needs ATP in order to be able to function. And how the body utilizes that is it shuffles it into 3 categories. So that's physical and mental stress. That takes up energy. So that's like the exercise you do, the stresses of life, all that sort of stuff. Then you've got your vital biological functions. So all you might know is BMR, resting metabolic rate, basically all the functions that your body needs to do in order to keep you running, basically, just to keep the light switched on. So again, those things require energy in the form of ATP. And then the last category then is tissue recovery and adaptation. So that's, adaptation to our training, recovering from those physical and mental stresses, that sort of thing. So again, that needs energy. And then for those of you who tuned into the overtraining seminars, I did touch on this a little bit, where I said, the body only has a certain amount of energy it can use every day. And if it's going to, I touched on physical and mental stress in the last one, if it's going to that all the time, then you have less energy available for tissue recovery and adaptation. And that's where that overtraining effect comes in, and you get that vicious cycle. So like I say, just reiterating this, everything we do comes down to energy and how that gets divided and used up. Touching on the physical and mental stress. So physical activity, guys, is hugely energy intensive. So, when we're exercising, our muscles, our organs, they need ATP in order to fuel the movement and fuel the activity we're doing. And then the mental stress that we go through in daily life, that also causes energy to be mobilized in the form of the stress response. So when that stress response gets activated, then energy production gets ramped up. And then what you find as well is energy production gets ramped up because of mental stress. Then because it's not being utilized, because we're not actually doing any activity, you then require energy to bring all those things back in line. So again, it's another vicious circle. So if you've got a lot of physical stress, a lot of mental stress, that's a lot of energy being used up trying to deal those things and bring the body back to homeostasis. Then the second category I touched on earlier was your RMR, your biological functions. Now, like I said, these are the things that are required to keep you alive. So there's a minimum amount of energy that these things need in order to keep going and keep functioning. If they stop, that's not good for you. In terms of all the energy we do have available, this is where all that energy is going to go first, because it's so vitally important. Okay, so our body will never take away from this, but it will take away from the next category, which is your recovery and adaptation. So yeah, this is where we want to be building tissue to be bigger, stronger, more efficient, which is things like your muscle fibers, your vascular network, mitochondria, those sort of things. And again, we need energy to be able to do this. So if your energy is being spent on your biological functions and your stress, then it hasn't got much available for this. So you can see now it's all a bit of a balancing act in terms of how we want our energy to be distributed, start again, to get the sort of response we want from the body. Does that all make sense so far, Sam, what I said there? Anything I've missed out?
Yeah, absolutely spot on, yeah.
Amazing. And then, yeah, so energy systems 101. Like I say, we're focused on the aerobic side today, so I'll just touch on this briefly. So yeah, the body can produce ATP in two different ways, and that's either with oxygen or without oxygen, which is either aerobically, so with oxygen, or anaerobically, without oxygen. Now, the aerobic energy system is our default system. So that's the one that's always running, always giving us energy. The only time really that the anaerobic system would kick in is when the body can't get enough oxygen in. So then we switch over into that pathway, and that supports us until we can get oxygen in, basically. So yeah, those short, sharp activities. So right now, all of us are sitting down, we're watching this, and I'm talking. So we're all in our aerobic pathway right now. If I was to stand up, which is a 1 second movement, if that, my body would then switch into sort of more of like the lactic system. But then if I was to keep standing at low, being active at low intensity, then I'd switch back to the anaerobic side. So we are always constantly moving in between these pathways, but the majority of the time will be spent in that aerobic pathway. Okay, so yeah, getting more specific with that now. So focusing on your aerobic system. So yeah, like I said just now, it provides the majority of the energy for any activity lasting longer than 60 seconds. So, and this is regardless of, the intensity and the speed. So most people, I don't know if you agree, Sam, think a boot camp is high intensity. But, for example, on Saturday, I gave the guys a 20-minute, every minute on the minute, and it was purposely designed to give them minimal, if to no rest, just to keep them working, because I know they hate resting. And they think that's high intensity, but it's actually not. They're working aerobically. Is that right?
People think of intensity as, oh my God, that was intense. Like, I'm really tired. But that isn't the proper definition of intensity. Intensity is how close you're working to your maximum. Okay, so if you're going to do something for 20 minutes, then it can't be close to your maximum. It's like, how can I put this? Like a 1 rep max is very intense. It's a maximal effort lift. Okay, whereas doing 20 squats with a sub-maximal weight, with a 20 RM or 25 RM, yeah, it might get you more out of breath. It might make you more tired. It might the set might last a lot longer. It's definitely going to challenge you a bit more in terms of your breathing, but it's less intense. Okay, so like a 50-meter sprint flat out is intense. A 5-kilometer run isn't intense. Okay, because is lower intensity. You're not working maximally. So yeah, when you think of intensity, think about how hard you're working. And a 20-minute workout, it can't be intense because you're going for 20 minutes. If it was a 1 minute max effort row, that's much more intense. So yeah, when we use intensity, it's important we understand the proper definition, I think.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, moving on to the next point now. So the aerobic system drives the sort of restoration of homeostasis in that cellular environment. So we want to be able to, like I said, energy, we need a constant supply of it. So yeah, the goal of that aerobic system is to make sure that we're able to get back to homeostasis as soon as possible, so we can, maintain that energy without, getting overly fatigued. So yeah, the aerobic system is really, it is responsible for recovery. So if you think of your rest periods in a workout, you might do a set of 8 squats, and you're probably working more anaerobically there, because of the amount of time you're working for. But then when you put the bar down, you stop, you've got your 2 minutes rest or wherever it might be, that's when your aerobic system kicks back in. So again, it's bringing the heart rate down, reducing blood pressure, bringing your body back to homeostasis in order to recover. And then as a byproduct of that, the better our aerobic system is, the quicker we can recover, and potentially, the better we can perform. So yeah, if you can recover quicker in that two-minute interval, you're much more likely to go into the next set and be able to maintain that intensity, so that weight on the bar, than if if your aerobic system is poor and you can't recover, and you're going into the next set and you're still gasping for air, you haven't recovered. So yeah, it does really help with the recovery side of things. So it can't be sort of overlooked, that aspect. Yes, it might not help you, lift a 1 rep max, but yeah, in between those efforts, then it can be useful. Like you see the Olympic weightlifters, the better they can recover in the 3-minute rest period or whatever it might be, then like say they go into that next set, that next lift, and they're in a much better position to try and repeat that effort or push a little bit harder. And yeah, and the most important thing is you cannot survive without the aerobic system working. As I keep saying, we need a constant supply of energy to live. So it's absolutely fundamental to life that our aerobic system or aerobic pathway is functioning. If you hold your breath, tell me how long you last. Don't do that, by the way. So yeah, you won't last very long if you hold your breath, and that's just just the proof in the pudding there that yes, you need your aerobic system. We need oxygen in order to keep functioning and for life. And also, why do we need to work on aerobic fitness? So yeah, once I said, it is fundamental for life. But there's some studies here that show that VO2 max is a very good predictor of all-cause mortality. So, and there is a linear relationship here. So your risk of cardiovascular death decreases as your aerobic fitness increases. So yeah, in terms of, long story short, the aerobic system is king when it comes to longevity of life and survival. So, if they're not two big things that doesn't make you want to work on this a little bit more, I don't know what will. So yeah, these charts just show so people here with greater aerobic capacity have lower risk of death, basically. And it's just the two different studies just prove the same point. So yeah, very, very useful in terms of sticking around on this earth a little bit longer. Sorry, I can't see the title on my slide. So yeah, in terms of, what we're looking to achieve by training our aerobic system, we're looking to improve oxygen supply, oxygen utilization, and substrate availability. Now, I've got a few things on the slide here. You don't need to know the ins and outs of it all, but we're just looking to create some adaptations which are going to make the body more efficient, basically. So yeah, in terms of, the training we do, that can improve the cardiac output, which will be, how much blood we can get pumped around the body quicker. The respiratory system become more efficient. So yeah, it's just like I say, getting more oxygen around the body, so that can then be utilized by the muscles and used to help your performance, basically. So yeah, there's some terms here. So you don't need to know the ins and outs of them, but they're there just to show you these are sort of things we're looking to improving with our training. Any you want to touch on there, Sam?
No, but you think cardiac output as well. You got to think that aerobic training is like muscle building for the heart. Okay, so you think, the bigger biceps you have, the easier you can do bicep curls. Okay, so, and the more weight you can lift, the more efficient you would be at doing bicep curls if Zoe or me were to put you through a big bicep workout. So you got to think that aerobic training is like hypertrophy training, but just for the heart. So the bigger, the stronger your heart is, the more efficient it's going to be. And that's what Zoe's saying about your respiratory system becoming more efficient. It can, in every single pump, okay, because it's bigger and stronger, it's going to be able to pump more blood around the body. Okay, so, if someone's aerobically unfit versus someone that is aerobically fit, this is where in a boot camp setting, someone that's aerobically unfit, they might be in the yellow zone doing 10 burpees. Whereas someone that's aerobically fit might only be in the blue zone doing 10 burpees. Okay. Also, the other way you can think about this as well is the more efficient your heart is, obviously, the less it has to work at rest. So you have a lower resting heart rate. Okay, which is great. But you've got to remember that your maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age, roughly. Okay, that's what we say. So mine is about 190 beats per minute. Do myself out of 10 years there. I'm 30. No, what is it? Mine would be 185. 180. Would it be? Yeah, 185 beats per minute. Okay, so if my resting heart rate is 42 beats per minute and my maximum heart rate is 185 beats a minute, I've got this massive zone to work in when I train. Okay, so I got all these zones to go through. So for me, it's great. You know, I'm really fit. You know, I've got a, you know, my heart is very efficient. So it means to me, I can really work hard and push myself when it comes to conditioning and really get a lot out of the workout. Whereas I can remember when I was training, I'm a doctor, Kiara, anyways, she'd be in the red zone, just walking up the stairs in a consultation. Okay, because she was, you know, at the time she was so overweight, so stressed out. Her resting heart rate was about 102 beats per minute. Okay, so the more aerobically fit you are, the easier everything is going to be, not just life, but obviously your workouts and your recovery as well. So just think of it, aerobic training is like bodybuilding for your heart, basically. It's going to give you a much bigger, stronger, more efficient system. So hope that that makes sense.
Yeah, spot on. So yeah, like I said earlier, guys, when people stereotypically think of cardio, they think jumping on a bike, jumping on a treadmill and working for a long time. But you know, I want to show you here that there's actually a lot of different protocols you can use in order to improve your aerobic fitness. And these protocols sort of work on a continuum. You'd obviously start towards the bottom end. So I've put them roughly in order as to how you would work through them. So yeah, you'd start at the sort of the most low intensity version. But unfortunately, when the intensity is low, there's an inverse relationship. So yeah, intensity is low, which means volume is high. So when you start using these methods, you are, you know, it does require a greater amount of time the further down the continuum you are. But if you are a little bit time poor, you know, you can't, like if you look at the aerobic capacity here, you know, anywhere between 30 and 90 minutes would be, you know, the right sort of time scale to improve your capacity, reduce your heart rate, that sort of stuff. But like, you know, some people may not have the time to do 90 minutes. I'm on a, you know, on a assault bike or whatever it might be, like I used to do, crazy as I was, you know, a few times a week. So then there's other methods you can use which are further up the continuum, which might be more beneficial for you. So I'm going to just touch on a few. I'm not going to go through all of them because we'll be here for a while. You know, we've all got lives. So yeah, so we're going to just touch on a few which, you know, might sort of link in with sort of some of the adaptations we briefly mentioned earlier. So yeah, your foundation one is your aerobic capacity work. So anywhere between sort of 30 and 90 minutes with your heart rate between sort of 130 to 150 beats per minute. Or if you're, you know, if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, if you're using the MyZone in the gym, that'll be somewhere in the blue or the green zone. Or if you're not using a monitor of any sort, then a pace you can maintain where you're constantly breathing for your nose, basically. If you find you're doing this exercise and you're breathing for your mouth, you're potentially working a bit too hard. So yeah, you want to be able to maintain nasal breathing throughout duration. And yeah, so the benefit of that sort of training is, you know, it improves your oxygen supply, which you mentioned earlier. You know, got that increased cardiac output. We're getting more blood around the body quicker by increasing our stroke volume. It helps to reduce blood pressure, and it helps to lower that resting heart rates as well. So yeah, like Sam said, if that doctor, you know, she'd done a few weeks of this aerobic capacity, you know, next time she's walking up the stairs, she might be in the yellow zone as opposed to red, just because her resting heart rate's coming down, which is bringing that range down. And then sort of you know, like I say, if you haven't got the time to do that sort of thing, the next one along the continuum, sort of aerobic intervals, might be a better option for you. So because, you know, because the intensity is slightly higher, you don't have to do it for as long. But when you start with this protocol, you want to sort of work on capacity and then work on power. So sort of, you know, intervals, depending on what you've got time for, anywhere between 90 seconds and over, would be working at aerobic zone. And this is something I'm doing at the moment. So I'm doing like more capacity based work. So I've just so on my last training phase, I was doing aerobic capacity. I was doing 60 minutes, somewhere between 130 to 150 beats per minute. This phase, I'm doing intervals, and I do 3 minutes in the blue zone, and then 3 minutes in the green zone. And I just sort of alternate between those two for about 60 minutes. So, you know, I'm working at a 1-to-1 rest ratio right now. So when I'm looking to improve this in the future and, you know, power a bit more, I might work at like a 1 to 0.5 rest ratio. as opposed, just to make it a little bit more intense again. And then what you can do it like fixed, like I'm doing 3 on 3 off at the moment, just because that was the way I decided to do it. But what you can use as well is heart rate recovery, and you can use heart rate recovery with a few methods. And in terms of measuring your progress, this can be a little bit more effective because you can tailor the training to you a little bit more. So for example, if you did 120 seconds in the green zone, and say that your heart rate is 150 beats per minute. So you've done your 3, or whatever I just said, 90 seconds, 150 beats per minute. You're going into your rest period now. It's 90 seconds. You just recover until your heart rate drops back down in somewhere between 120 and 130 beats per minute, which again, if using my zone, is probably blue. And then you go, right, let's go back up to the green. And you just keep shifting and use your heart rate to dictate when you go back up. So then what you find over time is you might be able to, increase the distance you're covering, increase the amount of sets you're doing, because you're like say, the more you do this, the quicker you recover, which means the quicker we can drive you back up again and get more work done, basically. So yeah, heart rate recovery is a good technique to use to measure progress. So if you are using monitors, then yeah, that's a good thing you can do. The other ones I want to touch on, it doesn't always have to be stereotypical, like, on a bike, on a treadmill, on a rower, if you want to do cardio. For people who just, don't like it, don't enjoy it, then you can use weight training as well. So one protocol I got from Muscle Nerds was tempo weight. So we've sort of done something similar in SOS over the years with like time sets and stuff like that. So, doing those sort of training methods can bring on aerobic adaptations. And basically, so tempo weightlifting, it stimulates hypertrophy of your slow twitch muscle fibers. You'd utilize traditional strength exercises. So like, you might do squats, you might do a barbell bent over row, shoulder press, RDLs, those sorts of things. Depends on, your ability and where you're at. Like usually with this sort of thing, I'd like to use like a full body approach. So you can use anywhere between 3 and 5 exercises. Usually when we've done time sets in the past, we go A1, A2, A3, A4, and you cycle through them. In terms of weights, when we're at this end of the continuum, we don't want to use a maximal weight. We want to be sub-maximal. So somewhere like, less than 40% of your when we're at max. You're leaving a lot of reps in the tank. So, we don't drive blood pressure up too much when we're doing this protocol. So you do somewhere between 3 and 5 exercises, usually like full body approach, 8 to 10 reps. And for example, using a 2-0-2-0 tempo. So it's nice and slow, nice controlled movements, 40-60 seconds rest in between, and you do like somewhere between 3 and 5 rounds. So obviously, if you're doing this for the first time, you start at the lower end, and as you've done it more frequently, you could, next time you come around to do it, you might do 4 sets as opposed to 3, and just increase the volume that way. And then you can do that sort of protocol a few times a week as well. And then as you move through the continuum, you start touching on more sort of anaerobic methods once you've got those foundations in place. So, a Tabata or reverse Tabata would be the first step in that bridge between an aerobic protocol and an anaerobic protocol. So you'd usually start with a reverse Tabata, 10 seconds work, 20 seconds rest, 8 times. Again, you can use heart rate recovery with this. So after you've done the 8 sets, you wait for your heart rate to recover down to 120 to 130, and then potentially go again. Now, Tabata, if done right, is freaking horrible. So, sometimes people can take like 12 minutes and over to recover if they've gone truly all out. So yeah, you might start with 1-2 sets to begin with. You should not be able to do more than 3 if you're doing this properly. And then yeah, once say you start reverse, and then you might then switch it to a normal Tabata, which would be a 20 on, 10 off, 8 times. And then next one on this screen, we've got high intensity continuous training. So this is, so we talked about earlier, I think I briefly talked about, I was on one of the slides previously anyway. So one of the sort of outcomes we want from some aerobic training is fast twitch fibers becoming more oxidative, which basically improves your power endurance. So the best example I can give this is like a boxer. So, you find sometimes you watch boxing and they're punching, they fatigue, they suddenly can't throw a punch anymore. So with power endurance, what that allows them to do is, maintain that power over a longer period of time. So, sort of high intensity continuous training, that would bring on that sort of effect. And I've known, so like I say, I got some of this stuff in Muscle Nerd. So I know Luke Lehman, he uses this protocol for sort of more like localized endurance. So he's found, especially with like women who are looking to like lose fat off their lower body, which usually for us is the last thing to go, or one of the most stubborn areas to try and get rid of fat off of. You might stick them on a spin bike, ramp the resistance up really high. So it's like you can only do like 20, 30 reps per minute, which if you've been on a spin bike is really, really slow. And you just make you pedal for like somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, which usually after about 10 minutes, you probably want to ring the bell, you've had enough. So you might break that down. So do sort of set like 10 minutes work, 5 minutes recovery, go again to try and build yourself up that 20-minute total. So yeah, that's like I say, it's just working against high resistance over a long period of time. So yeah, our fast twitch fibers, which we're trying to work harder, just get used to working for a longer period of time than normal. And then yeah, there's some other protocols. I'm not going to delve into these too much. So yeah, you got high resistance intervals. So it might be a 5-second load to sprint. So that might be like a prowler or something like that. You go max out 5 seconds, recover, go again. Aerobic plyometrics, you could use for a bit of fun, a bit of novelty. But they, in terms of, specific adaptations, be more beneficial for people in sports. So dynamic sports, so people like rugby, football, that sort of thing. These things would be beneficial for. So yeah, in terms of what we looking to improve when we're focusing specifically on aerobic fitness. So we want to increase the functional capacity of the heart. We want to build a bigger vascular network. So that's your the sort of the tubes that deliver the blood, really, your capillaries, blood vessels, that sort of thing. So we want to build a bigger network so we can improve that supply to the muscles and the organs. And then we want to increase the number of mitochondria, which are the sort of powerhouse of the cell, which are, play a big role in that sort of energy production, which is like I said earlier, is what we're looking to maintain with the aerobic pathways. Energy production over a long period of time, trying to, not get fatigued, basically. And yeah, I've talked a lot, so hopefully it's sunk in. But yeah, just to summarize some of the key points from that training today. So yeah, as I said earlier, when it comes to conditioning, it's all about energy production and expenditure. The aerobic system is our default energy system. So the majority of our energy is produced here, and that system is essential for survival. Okay. So because it's essential for survival, pretty much everyone would benefit from building a big and broad foundation of aerobic fitness. And just to back it up, that study that we saw earlier, where there's a direct association between higher VO2 max and a lower risk of mortality, especially from cardiovascular diseases. And yeah, so if your goal is to live a happy and healthy life, work on your aerobic fitness. And then, as we touched on towards the end there's various protocols you can use to build, that aerobic foundation. So you sort of start down the lower end of the continuum, and then you sort of work yourself up more towards those anaerobic methods. And then if you're looking to do more specific training, then you can touch on those. And yeah, that is pretty much everything I want to run through, guys. So is there anything you want to add there, Sam, that I might have not missed or might have missed?
Yeah, I think Zoe's giving you a nice variety of aerobic workouts there. My resting heart rate is around 42, 43 beats per minute, which is good. It's quite low because I don't really do a lot of traditional aerobic work. I certainly don't sit on a bike for 30 minutes, 3-4 days a week, or row for 90 minutes like Zoe does. One thing that's kept me fit over the years is playing football. So, football is great because even though it's an anaerobic sport in many ways with high intensity sprints, you're always on the move as well. So you need a good aerobic base to play football, a bit like boxing. A boxing match or fight, there's 3-minute rounds. You have 12 rounds, which is obviously 36 minutes. Plus you've got a minute rest in between. So you could be boxing for up to 48 minutes. So, football lasts 90 minutes, boxing could potentially last 48 minutes. Any sport like that requires a pretty sound and solid aerobic base. So, you always find a sport to play, which is great if you don't want to be doing sort of more traditional cardio. As I've got older, I've actually found that Vinyasa Yoga is really good aerobic workout because I haven't been the best over the years at stretching. But what Vinyasa Yoga does is a Vinyasa flow. I know Mel started teaching it at the gym, which is good. I do it in hot pod yoga, which is 36 degrees, which is another way to get your heart rate up. Is it connects mobility movements with a Vinyasa, and a Vinyasa is a press up into sort of more of a cobra into a downward dog. So it's a full body, a bit like we did with the animal flow movements. There is an animal flow workout on YouTube which uses 30-30, 30 on, 30 off. And I've worn my zone doing that. And it is a really good blue zone, stroke green zone workout. Now, the benefit of doing your yoga or your animal flow is you're not just getting the aerobic benefits, you're also getting added mobility, okay, which is great. So my aerobic workout at the moment is I'm playing a lot of football, so I've got to manage my how much volume I'm putting into my legs. I'd love to do that session Zoe said with the tempo squats and things like that, but it's just going to be too much for me right now where I am with my age and playing football. All right. And I'm a coach now as well, so I got to set a good example. I can't be playing like an idiot on a Saturday. What I do is I do 4 minutes on the bike at quite a good speed. I try and get into the green zone. And then I just put a workout together of 8 to 10 exercises, working on a lot of remedial stuff. So I might do banded pull aparts. I might do some bent over lateral raises. I might do some cyclist squats with no load, where I'm really trying to explore those end ranges. And you might have seen me actually driving my knees to the floor and leaning back to really open up the hip flexors. I might do some animal flow movements where I'm really getting into my hips and I'm rotating. I might do some back extensions just to work on that posterior chain. But it's all done with very light loads. Reps tend to be anything from 10, 12, 15, or even up to 20 reps on each exercise, depending on the exercise. And I just try and work on all the small muscles that, get neglected. There was a recent research study out about the Rectus Femoris muscle, the quad, how it doesn't get enough activation for hypertrophy during squats. So if you want to hit that Rectus Femoris, and is the muscle in the top of the quad or the hip flexors, if you like, that sprinters have the biggest hypertrophy of. Okay, so it's very important for speed. Okay, and it's also linked to your core with things like knee raises, leg raises. A lot of people struggle to do leg raises because this muscle is weak. So, for example, I put that into my circuit, some simple hip flexor raises. So, and all I do is I keep my eye on the monitor in the gym, and I just make sure I'm trying to stay in that blue zone or that green zone. I find the green zone really hard to stay in. Why? Because my heart rate is so low and it's so good right now. It's quite fit and strong. I'm efficient, so my heart rate always drops. So I've got to work even harder to stay in that green zone. So yeah, that's how I put my my aerobic works together. Either doing yoga or creating a little workout in SOS, just working on the weaknesses basically. But after every round, I'll go back on the bike for 4 minutes. And normally I'll do 4 or 5 rounds. So I'm accumulating around 20 minutes of bike work, but there's no rest. As soon as I get off the bike, I'm into my little circuit. And I try and do upper body, lower body. So I'm getting that peripheral heart action. The heart has to work harder then to pump the blood up and down the body based on the exercise I'm choosing. So there's loads of options, guys, in terms of getting aerobic work in. Don't think you have to do a boot camp or you have to run around the lake or sign up to Strava and start doing your 10K runs. Like, that's not what we're after. And I think the main take home is that it needs to be quite low intensity. We want you working in that blue zone and green zone. I got Lana doing 6 30-minute rows a week now. Again, just to facilitate this recovery, bring blood pressure down, improve all those health markers. And again, we know that blood flow, if your diet is good, it's going to bring nutrients. So if you've got elbow pain, you've got knee pain, you've got joint pain, if you are eating a high protein diet and you've got lots of amino acids circulating in your bloodstream because you're hitting, regular protein through the day, whenever you do this cardio, those amino acids should be in your bloodstream, okay? And they're going to bring nutrients to help, reduce inflammation and assist with healing, which, goes back to what Zoe said. This is a big conundrum. It isn't just about aerobic training. To get the benefits of aerobic training, you need to make sure everything else is in place to the best of your abilities as well. So you just got to think that it's not just improving blood flow. What does blood flow bring? Blood flow brings nutrients. Okay, so that's why if you look at powerlifters like Westside Barbell, This is the strongest gym in the world. They'll do 150 tricep press downs every day. Okay, why? Since they started doing that, their tennis elbow, golfer's elbow pain has gone away, despite the fact they're bench pressing 500 pounds every week. Okay, so you've got to think, you know, a little bit beyond just the heart as well with aerobic training. There's so much more benefits to it. And the other thing people forget as well with aerobic training is you burn a higher percentage of calories from fat. Okay, so when you're doing your HIIT training, yellow zone, red zone, you're going to be burning more glucose or glycogen for energy. So carbohydrates are going to be burnt primarily for the energy, whereas the lower intensity work burns more fat for fuel. So if you're dieting for a photo shoot, which I know Lana is and Sue is, and maybe we can get Elaine signed up as well now because she's the only one that's not doing it on the call. All right, lower intensity work is better because what happens if you do a HIIT workout? Okay, I guarantee you 3-4 hours later, you are going to be ravenous on the calories your coach has you on. Okay, your calorie targets are going to go up. Your calorie, the need for calories are going to go up loads. I'm just laughing at Elaine because she said never in a million years. She threw me off then. You're going to have cravings. Okay, so it's why a lot of bodybuilders, they do slow, steady state cardio. A few reasons. The first one is they want to train again in the afternoon and they haven't got unlimited, recovery reserves. Low intensity work, as it says, is low intensity. It's not going to beat your nervous system up as much. It's not going to have you stressed out and wired. All right. But the second thing is it's going to allow you to stick to your calorie deficit a lot easier. Okay. So there's loads of benefits to this aerobic training. And, the one thing I love about aerobic training is it's not like strength training. The improvements you see are like crazy. Like if I did a 5K run, I haven't done a 5K run for maybe 3 or 4 weeks because of I'm playing games now. But if I did a 5K run, I'd probably do it in, say, 23 minutes. I guarantee you the next time I did it, even if it was like 4 or 5 days later, it'd be like 22 minutes. And then if I did it 4 or 5 days later, it'd be like 21:15. You can knock like 10% off your 5K run in 3 or 4 runs. Now, if I was in the gym and deadlifting, there's no way I'm adding 10% of my deadlift in 8 or 9 days. But you can really improve your aerobic results in quite a short time frame. So it's a really good energy system to train. And I think it is the energy system where you can maximize your capacity by about 95%. So we could all have around 95% of the benefits of our aerobic system within about 12 to 14 weeks. Okay, whereas strength, you're going to still be getting stronger in 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years time. But we can really exhaust the benefits of the aerobic system in around 12 to 14 weeks, which is great. And I think the majority of those benefits can actually be experienced in the first 8 weeks. Okay, so obviously, if you're a big girl or a big guy, losing body fat's only going to help things. I think this study was done on individuals with a healthy BMI. So obviously, losing weight is going to help if you are a bigger guy or girl. But for someone like me, I might not do any cardio. I could get my cardio fitness to like 95% of where it's going to get to, like in 14 weeks. And a lot of those gains would happen in the first 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, in terms of like, keeping you motivated and seeing results, like the aerobic system is a great energy system to train. And it'll be interesting to see what Lana says, because I know she's doing 6 30-minute sessions a week in a certain zone. It wouldn't surprise me if the amount of distance she's covering at that intensity is getting better and better every time. So that's something, unless she's got, blisters on her hands from all this rowing, the 6 days a week is quite high frequency. So yeah, great presentation, Zoe. That was awesome. Yeah, Lana said you're right. So she's probably, in the first 30 minutes, she might have done 5 or 6K. Then it's 6,200 meters, 6,400 meters, and things like that. So you should find you're getting further in the 30 minutes, which shows your body's getting more efficient. So yeah, it's a really good energy system to train. So we got any questions?
Sue sent one earlier. So she said, when I was morbidly obese, my heart had to work harder to move me around. Now I've lost the weight. Will I have a stronger heart as a result of having been bigger?
Yeah, potentially. It's a bit like, you've got to think your heart's like a muscle, right? I'm not the most politically correct person saying things, so I'll try and explain this in a politically correct way. But bigger people tend to have massive calves, even when they lose the weight. So if you look at anyone, I trained a guy who was like 25 stone. I got him down to 14 stone, a guy called Daryl Carter, and his wife lost about 14 stone as well when they trained with me. They both had a phenomenal amount of weight loss, but both of them, their calves, I've never seen calves like it. And if you think about it, if you're walking around all day at 24 stone, your calves have got to absorb all that impact. If I give you, Zoe, 2 24K kettlebells and you had to carry them around for 10 years, I guarantee you, your legs are going to get stronger. You're going to lay down an insane amount of muscle tissue in your glutes, your hamstrings and calves. And this is what he had. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if with Sue, because she's used to carrying more weight, her heart, has adapted to carry that new weight. And now she's lost the weight, no doubt is much more efficient as a result.
Yeah, like this is not related to sort of the heart, but I know in my old gym there was a PT and he used to have a weighted vest. I know we got one in our gym as well. And basically when he would start with new clients, he'd obviously take them through the first workout and say when they lost their first 10 kilos, they would come into the gym. He said, right, put this vest on. The vest weighs 10 kilos. And he would make them do the workout that they did on day one. And then he said, right, that's how, and obviously they drip with sweat, they'd be dying, it would be hard work. And he was like, yeah, you used to move at that amount of weight. And it's like, see the difference. So you do get stronger.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to do, actually. It makes people really aware of how far they come. Or yeah. I often pick up the dumbbell. Like, you've lost 10 kilos, here's 10 kilos, pick it up. And they're like, bloody hell. Like, when Rachel Sheeran lost all that weight with me, she couldn't physically pick up the dumbbell at the amount of weight she'd lost because he was like 35 kilos. So, yeah. Any other questions, guys?
No, just apparently I'll be looking at Susan's calves tomorrow.
Yeah, here we go.
She'll be on the step before I get in there now.
So guys, the take home is basically we all need to do some aerobic work. It hasn't got to be fancy. It could be, a 20-minute walk. If you're quite aerobically unfit at the moment, it could be a 20-minute power walk 3 or 4 days a week. And then you can just build up the time of that power walk, maybe 25, 30 minutes. 30 minutes 3 times a week would be perfect to complement your current training. And then obviously what happens is as you get fitter, your body gets more efficient. So that walk might have to turn into a power walk. It might have to turn into a slow jog. If you don't like jogging, then that's when you can look at maybe cycling or rowing or cross training, or maybe even doing something a little bit more fancy like I do, where you put together a little circuit at home, just working on those weaknesses, or maybe one of the workouts that Zoe gave you as well. I know there's some really good workouts on the MyZone app that allow you to drift in and out of zones, the roller coaster, for example. But, make sure it's aerobic. We want to see mostly blue and mostly green. Okay. And if anyone hasn't got a MyZone belt, I highly recommend it. So, you know that you're working then at the right intensity, because it's quite a hard zone to get a feel for if you don't know what it feels like. And the only way you're going to feel like it if you experience it.
And like one of the key things with whether it comes to nutrition or training, guys, that the bottom underlying factor is sustainability and adherence. So find an activity that you enjoy, which then means you're going to stick to it and doing it over a long period of time more consistently. So yeah, you don't have to do any of the things I mentioned. You don't have to jump on your salt bike or the rower, like Sam said. Try walking, a class or some sort, the animal flow, yoga, that sort of thing. Anything that gets you moving, basically. And like I said earlier, as long as over a duration of 60 seconds, you're going to be working aerobically and getting that benefits. Yeah. And yeah, one of the main reasons I wanted to put this training in tonight is because we are going to be utilizing some of those aerobic methods in semi-private in the next few weeks. So, just so you don't come into the gym and think, oh, what are we doing this for? This is pointless. There is a reason behind it. There is a specific adaptation we're trying to get. So just wanted to give you some of that understanding of what the thought process is behind the programming. So, if you understand why you're doing it, you're going to buy into it a lot more. So yeah, that's what we wanted to sort of give you a little bit today, is that little bit of understanding.
Yeah. So guys, what's happening is basically this is the last week. Those of you that are on the semi-private, we got the 87654. The week after, we're going to go into a testing week. So your coach, whoever's your lifestyle coach, they've got your data from the last time we did 5-5-3-3-1-1. They know where you squatted, they know where you deadlifted, they know how many chins you did or didn't do. They also got your bench press and overhead press score. So we're going to be going into that same A series, 5, 5, 3, 3, 1, 1, just like we did 13 weeks ago. It'll be. And then that's the A series. Then the B series, we're going to put together a bit of a workout similar to what I do, or what Zoe does, with 5 or 6 exercises in a row. It'll all be upper body on upper body day. It'll all be lower body on lower body day, with a few exercises in there just to spike heart rate. And we're just going to try and get you all to stay in that green or blue zone for 20 to 25 minutes. And then we'll finish off with some stretching and mobility. The reason we're doing that is because we're going to be testing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We want to make sure, obviously, we're not battering you, so we can really see how strong you've got over the last 12 weeks. And the aerobic work is going to, go through all the benefits, and, you can experience the benefits you've gone through tonight. Okay. And it should mean then you're all feeling really excited and fresh for a brand new phase of 12 weeks where we can start looking at working on other primary lifts. We focused on this phase on the bench press and the squat. That's why you're squatting twice a week in your intensification phases. But we look at bringing up the deadlift and maybe the incline press in the next phase. So yeah, it is a method behind the madness, and hopefully you'll enjoy the aerobic work. It'll be great for those of you that got a belt, because if you do win the yellow zone, me or Zoe will say, right, rest now wait there, rest until you're back into the blue or green, and then go again. Whereas if you haven't got the belt, then it's just going to be a case of us saying to you, make sure you can breathe, hold a conversation. If you can't, then yeah, just have 5 minutes or 30 seconds or whatever it is until you feel better, and then go again. Okay.
Elaine asked a question I just seen. What was the type of training called that was for rugby? Interested for my son. So that was the aerobic plyometrics.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can send you a little screenshot of the overview just so you've got something. But yeah, that was like, so you want to be doing, you probably know about more than me, Sam, but based on what I've seen on my courses, it's like 10 to 30 seconds work. It's a sub-max sort of plyometrics. It's not box jumps or anything like that. It's, like med ball slams, those sort of things.
Light bounding, things like that, like skate the jumps, yeah.
10, 20 seconds work, 10, 20 seconds rest, do it a few times. But yeah, I'll send you a screenshot, Elaine, of the overview of that so you can show your son, and he can have a little look into it. Okay, guys, awesome. All right, so guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll get this out for everyone on the in the members group. We'll record this. It has been recorded. So if anyone's watching this on the playback and they have any questions, feel free to comment on the post or message me and Zoe, and we'll do our best to answer. Okay, and yeah, thanks for the guys who joined in on the call. It's nice to have your questions coming over.